Well, well, you know, that's the perfect way to say that I am super excited. And what you just saw was an example of it, because I'm Carla Hayden, the 14th Librarian of Congress, and welcome to the Library of Congress on a very, very special day. You will get an exclusive preview of the library's newest exhibition, Rosa Parks in Her Own Words. And this beautiful and we think very compelling exhibition about one of the country's civil rights icons resonates strongly with me. After I was sworn in as the 14th Librarian of Congress since 1802, the very first collection I was able to see was the Rosa Parks collection. And from that first moment, when I saw her family Bible, followed by all of her personal letters and writings, I felt its profound power. And then I read in her own handwriting. I had been pushed around all my life and felt at this moment that I couldn't take it anymore. I knew then that we had to share these papers with everyone. And in this exhibit, through her own words, the Rosa Parks you will meet was not always writing for publication or posterity. She was writing in the moment for herself. And her powerful story and her long fight for justice have always resonated with me. And as the first woman and the first African-American Librarian of Congress, I take special pleasure in having the Rosa Parks collection housed here at the nation's library, side by side with the papers of Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, Mary Church Terrell, and Thurgood Marshall. Rosa Parks lived a life dedicated to equal rights and social justice, and she helped change the country with the example she set. This new exhibit is an important milestone for Rosa Parks to tell her story beyond the bus for new generations that can learn from her and through her words and her pictures. All of this would not have been possible without the generosity of the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, who made the Rosa Parks collection a gift to the library and to the nation. Now, the collection comprises some 10,000 items drawn from both Ms. Parks' private life and her decades of work for civil rights. It includes photos and correspondence, handwritten recollections, private notes during the Montgomery bus boycott, and the struggle she endured after. The exhibit pulls this from the collection curated by the library's expert staff, led by lead curator, Ms. Adrienne Cannon, and the exhibit designer, Mr. David Mandel. The exhibit narrates her life as a child to her later years working to fight injustice. So it is our honor to open the exhibition tomorrow, December 5th, to the public, the 64th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. And before I wrap up, I just want to acknowledge the generous donors who also made this exhibition possible, and also thank members of the Congressional Black Caucus who have been so supportive. The Ford Foundation, the Catherine B. Reynolds Foundation, with additional support from AARP, History, Joyce and Thomas Moorhead, and the Capital Group. And the Library of Congress is grateful to the Rosa and Raymond Parks Institute for Self-Development, which worked closely with Ms. Parks to preserve her archive and legacy. And now I'd like to present a video produced by the Library of Congress to celebrate Rosa Parks in her own words through the voices of some of the people she inspired.
We're going to find out which of these ladies really is the incredible Rosa Parks. Will the real Rosa Parks please stand up?
Come
Rosa Parks is often taught as a sort of meek seamstress who one day sort of accidentally stumbles into history and refuses to give up her seat on the bus, launching the modern civil rights movement. And that version, taught in schools and often celebrated nationally, very much distorts and limits who Rosa Parks actually was. Her activism starts 2 decades before her historic bus stand on December 1st, 1955, and will continue for 4 decades after.
As far as I can remember, during my lifetime, I resisted the idea of being mistreated and pushed around because of my race, and I felt that all people should be free regardless of their color.
One day when I was about 10, I met a little white boy named Franklin on the road. He was about my size, maybe a little bit larger. He said something to me and he threatened to hit me, balled up his fist as if to give me a sock. I picked up a brick and dared him to hit me. He thought better of the idea and went away. I love that. I mean, I love that. She, at 10, she knew the deep injustice of things.
Perhaps the case that guts her the most is a case about a 16-year-old by the name of Jeremiah Reeves. Jeremiah Reeves was a high school student, a jazz drummer, and delivered groceries, and had started having a relationship with a young white woman. It got found out. She cried rape.
They actually put him in the electric chair at Kilby Prison and told him if he didn't confess, he would be electrocuted on the spot, and so he gave this false confession. And so she began writing letters and trying to organize around blocking that execution, got Dr. King involved, and it didn't succeed. And he was executed, and she would tell me how devastating that was and how it broke her heart.
This is a Rosa Parks letter from 1956. I cried bitterly that I would be lynched rather than be run over by them. They could get the rope ready for me at any time they wanted to do their lynching. While my neck was spared of the lynch rope and my body was never riddled by bullets or dragged by an auto, I felt that I was lynched many times in mind and spirit.
She was a believer that you had to dissent, that you had to voice your objection, even if you couldn't see that that would do any good.
Rosa Parks, like my mom, has her own definition of who she is, and she doesn't let anybody change that definition. Help plan for a better world of tomorrow by giving all of the love, care, and guidance to our children of today.
As a child, when you read about important people, I thought that these were physical giants, people who spoke a language that was different from the language that I spoke, and I found that those were regular people. And so I have always felt that, a person does not have to be out of this world to accomplish something extraordinary.
We must have courage, determination to go on with the task of becoming free, not only for ourselves, but for the nation and the world. Cooperate with each other, have faith in God and in ourselves. And I just think we underestimate the kind of courage it took to stand up to these forces that had silenced and marginalized Black people from the very day we came to this continent, and yet she was taking them on. I think it was really an amazing part of her legacy, was the courage, the strength, the bravery that defined her as a human being.
I think when we're involved in excavating American history and coming to terms with our real history, I think too often we find that most history is a sanitized Madison Avenue version of it. But she's a lifelong activist, and she represents the variety of strategies to combat the persistent racism in the United States. I think it's important that we liberate Rosa Parks and liberate ourselves from the tyranny of this superficial history.
Hurt, harm, and danger. The dark closet of my mind. So much to remember. And yes, it's somewhere in the dark closet of my mind too. It can't help but be in the dark closet of your mind, and you should never forget. There is so much to remember. But I also know that this exhibit will show that Rosa Parks made a difference in moving us forward. And move forward we must. Even as we remember the past, we have to look to a brighter future.
I'm David Mandel, the Director of Exhibits and Interpretation here at the library, and thanks to you all for being with us this morning. I'd like to speak briefly about the design inspiration and the organization of the exhibition. During the exhibit team's first month of meetings, the show's curator, Adrian Cannon, read selections from the Rosa Parks collection papers. Through Adrian's voice, the introspection, the questioning, the thoughtfulness, and the strength of Mrs. Parks's words filled the conference room. This experience resonated deeply. From it grew the design idea to choreograph engagement with her writing, for it was through her writing, as captured in her papers, that a deeper sense of who she was emerged. The spine of the exhibit is a central platform featuring quotations, large-scale posters of documents bearing Mrs. Parks' handwriting, handwritten notes, correspondence, and their audiovisual touchstones also based on her writings. Organized chronologically and surrounding the platform, visitors will see important documents, artifacts, and photographs telling Mrs. Parks' story via the prism of her words and actions. Our hope is the exhibit provides meaningful connection to Mrs. Parks' life via the documents in the Library of Congress's unique collection. We look forward to you experiencing it. Exhibits are collaborations, and for this exhibit there were many collaborators. I'd like to thank from the exhibitions office, Carol Johnson, our exhibit director for this project, Karen Worth, the deputy chief of exhibitions, Ray Leo, Dave Jung, Mark Roman, Peter Botker, Rachel Waldron, Simonette Delatorre, Panisha Harrison, Cynthia Wayne, and Hervey Keeter. From the publishing office, Becky Clark, director of publishing, and Susan Rayburn, the writer and editor of the exhibit's companion volume. Michael Shvima provided design services for the exhibition, and Upswell designed and produced the audiovisual pieces. I'd now like to introduce the show's curator, Adrian Cannon, from the library's manuscript division. Her great knowledge of Rosa Parks' life and the library's collection, and her passion for this subject inform all parts of the exhibit. It was a privilege to work with and learn from her on this project.
Thank you, David, for those kind words, and good morning, everyone. I am the Afro-American History and Culture Specialist in the Manuscript Division, as well as the curator for the Rosa Parks exhibit. Rosa Parks, the civil rights icon made famous for her refusal to give up her seat to a white man on a city bus in Montgomery, Alabama in December 1955, is popularly known for that single celebrated act of civil disobedience. She is frozen in that moment. History transformed into legend. Her arrest sparked the Montgomery bus boycott, a pivotal event in the civil rights movement that ultimately led to the dismantling of Jim Crow segregation. The exhibition tells the full story of Rosa Parks. A section is devoted to the Montgomery bus boycott, but the primary focus is on the lesser-known facts and facets of Rosa Parks, such as her family life. The exhibit includes the family Bible placed on display for the first time following treatment by the library's Conservation Center, and a single solitary 1950 letter from her father, James Macaulay, apologizing for his desertion of the family when Rosa was a toddler. He simply signs it, James. Her deep spirituality. You will see sermon notes and a prayer she jotted down on a church bulletin, one of many church bulletins she preserved. Her childhood experiences that shaped her character in activism. On display is an account of Rosa keeping visual with her grandfather to protect their home against Klansmen. She writes, quote, "I wanted to see him kill a Ku Kluxer. He declared the first to invade our home would surely die. This when I was 6 or 7. None came in our house." And an account also of the childhood encounter with a white boy who threatened to hit her. Her activism before and after the bus boycott. The exhibition includes manuscripts and photographs documenting her work on behalf of the Scottsboro Boys, the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in support of the Black Panther movement and Black Power movement, and her work with Congressman John Conyers, as well as other political activities. The negative impact the bus boycott had on the Parks family. A month into the boycott, Rosa and Raymond lost their jobs, developed health problems, and were unable to find steady employment. And in 1959, income tax return on display, they reported their annual income at only $661. Her legacy and the impact she had on the world. The exhibition includes a photograph of Rosa posing with her friend Louise Taps and Mary Sims and a newspaper reporter at the renaming of 12th Street, the epicenter of the 1967 Detroit riot, to Rosa Parks Boulevard, and a letter from physician author Deepak Chopra in which he recounts being touched by Rosa Parks' bus stand as a young boy in India and the effects her actions had on his parents and family who, quote, shared wounds of slavery and subjugation. They cheered and saluted the heroism of the Black woman, Rosa Parks, unquote. The goal of the exhibition is twofold: to present Rosa Parks as a seasoned, lifelong activist, and to provide an intimate view of the woman behind the civil rights icon, the woman behind the legend. To tell the story, the exhibition draws extensively from the Rosa Parks collection, which contains items that cannot be found anywhere else, many items of sentimental value that she kept until her death. The Rosa Parks collection spans 140 years of family history and consists approximately of 10,000 items that document Rosa Parks' heartaches and triumphs, her everyday life, her activism, and her legacy. The collection reveals a more complex and human portrait of a familiar icon. Included are personal correspondence, letters from presidents, fragmentary drafts of her writings, financial and medical records, political buttons, correspondence, printed matter, honors and awards, presentation albums, drawings by children, and hundreds of cards thanking her for her work. Family papers include correspondence with her husband Raymond Parks, her mother Leona Macaulay, and her brother Sylvester Macaulay. The photographs reflect Rosa's lifelong commitment to social justice and human rights, her dedication to family, and her work with children. The books cover a broad range of subjects and include presentation copies signed by Martin Luther King Jr., Fred Gray, Alexander Haley, John O'Killens, and Deepak Chopra. In 1976, Rosa Parks gave some of her papers to Wayne State University. These papers primarily document her public life and public activism from 1955 to 1976. The Rosa Parks collection spans the years 1866 to 2006 and provides a well-rounded, broader view of who she was. The storyteller of the exhibit is Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks' words are represented in the exhibit by examples of her personal writings on display, in quotes from her personal writings and her book, Quiet Strength, printed on wall panels that introduce each section, in the exhibit's unique looping films, and in the prints of artist Amos P. Kennedy, Jr. The exhibition immerses visitors in these various representations of Rosa Parks' words, as well as photographs she accumulated throughout her life, allowing her to tell her own story. So in summary, the exhibition tells the full story of Rosa Parks, the seasoned, lifelong activist, the woman behind the civil rights icon. The story is drawn extensively from the Rosa Parks collection. The storyteller is Rosa Parks. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Susan Rayburn, senior writer and editor in the library's publishing office and the author of the companion book for the exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrienne, and good morning. In writing the companion book to this exhibition, Rosa Parks in her own words, I went through thousands of her handwritten items, and let me first say, thank goodness that Rosa Parks wrote legibly. She wrote in a neat, clear, rightward cursive. Visitors to the exhibition and those who refer to her manuscripts shown in the book will find themselves easily immersed. And the handwriting is important. It makes her work, her observations, her experiences, and her insights all the more accessible and personal. Her prose is direct and precise. Her favorite literary motif involves acrobatics and tightropes, as she frequently references the mental and physical gymnastics needed to survive the unrelenting demands of a segregated society that was rigged against her. Our book features more than 80 images, many of them never before shown in print, and includes numerous examples of her handwritten works. For example, there is her harrowing account of her own Me Too moment in the spring of 1931, when she was 18 years old, working as a domestic and doing all she could to keep the living room furniture between herself and an increasingly drunken man who was not, as she pointed out to him, following the rules of segregation that he and his fellow whites duly enforced during daylight hours. There is her remarkable description of her gentle, devoted husband, Raymond, exploding in fury after her arrest on the bus, his anger directed everywhere and at everyone, including at her and himself. Fortunately, she wrote it all down, the raw emotions in the immediate aftermath when neither of them could have known what a defining moment had just occurred. There are the letters to her family that capture in real time the sudden swirl of events that catapult her from anonymity to the public stage, where she headlined speaking engagements nationwide in support of the Montgomery bus boycott, all the while shipping her clothes from here to there, bunking in the houses of strangers, and ensuring that her telephone bill at home was paid. Clearly, this is not the Rosa Parks we meet in textbooks or in public service announcements, but it is the Rosa Parks, the very real, the very complex, the very human, that we encounter in her collections here at the Library of Congress. As far as we know, Rosa Parks did not share her most personal writing with friends or family. Her private writing appears cathartic, as when she writes of the dark closet of my mind. She used everything that was at hand, writing not only in notebooks and on stationery, but on the backs of meeting agendas, between the lines of her church bulletin, on pharmacy bags, store receipts. You will even find her recipe for peanut butter pancakes on the back of a manila envelope.
The public Rosa Parks wrote speeches, press statements, her autobiography, and a small book of short contemplations. And she was an inveterate letter writer. But in this book and in this exhibition, we meet a writer we have not read before. Should you wish to explore more of the Parks papers, the book includes citations for all of the images and quotations taken from the library's collections, which will lead you to the extensive online digitized material. And once you go down that path of revelations and discovery, you will probably want to stay there a while. With that, I will turn this back over to Dr. Hayden.
Well, thank you, Susan, David, and Adrian. And now it's time to see the exhibition. And as a special feature, we have today Mrs. Parks' attorney, Mr. Fred Gray, who's here with us today, who will be in the gallery. And Miss Jane Gunter, who offered her seat to Miss Parks that day on the bus, December 1st, 1955. Would you stand, Miss Gunter? They will both be available in the gallery to speak to you. Thank you again, and we hope you enjoy the exhibition. Because as Miss Susan said, as she went through the papers and the collection with Adrian, I respected Mrs. Parks before, but after this, I love her. So we think you will too.